Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast brought to you by Ugozi.com. In this podcast and at HireMyVA, we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank, and that means your bank, the most important one. I'm Dave Braun, and I'm here with Larry Broughton, a partner in all things coaching, business mentor, coaches me in life. Larry, we just got done with a VWise event. Learn more from you. It's awesome to be walking this journey with you, man.
Oh, thank you, handsome Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
That was a good, powerful event, particularly everything that's been going on in our lives. But boy, it was a great energy recharge, wasn't it? The optimism there was just off the charts. Maybe it's because we've not been out there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Due to the pandemic, for those people that are listening to this 15 years from now. But yeah, I am just so inspired by those women who are running their businesses or they're about to launch their businesses. It takes courage. It takes guts to do this, to be on the journey that we're on.
Yeah.
There's launching your businesses.
So many courageous women there.
Yeah. So I'm always inspired when I participate in that.
And then having them get up in front of us, in a hot seat or in our, jam session and being in front of everybody and talking about their issue, that's courage.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into this, Dave. I think we have a question.
Yeah. So
why are we here? Why did you bring me here today, Dave?
Well, just because I want to see your smiling face and have you call me Handsome Dave.
Okay. Hello, Handsome Dave.
All right. Well, here's the question.
Yeah.
What are the 5 most important things that a manager needs to do?
I always chuckle at these, Dave.
I know.
When somebody writes in these questions, why do you want 5 if there might be 10? You write your questions, people, however you want to write them. I would say, what are the top things?
Not the top things.
Yeah. Listen, there's so many books that have been written about this. And one of the things I love about you, Dave, is you get these books and you're like a dog with a bone and you write your own book summaries for us. And I love that. But there's a lot of things. I think I want to start it with this, and I want to hand it over to you because there's a book that we were talking about recently, Smarter, Faster, Better, that I'm going to guess you're going to kind of hit on here since that's a hot button issue for you. I am always cautious when business owners are asking about how can I be a better manager?
Good question.
Okay. It's like I have this distinction. I hate it when our coaching clients call the people who do transactions with us or who fund our businesses by doing business with us, by buying our service or product. I hate it. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me when they call those folks customers.
Oh, yeah.
And not clients. Because to me, customers are transactional, clients are relational, and to me, words have meaning, right? If you want to build a sustainable business, you have to have a relationship with people so they buy from you over and over again. It's very difficult to run a business if you're doing onesie, twosie transactions over and over again, right?
Absolutely.
So I feel the same way about managers versus leaders. Now, there are certainly people that we have to have in managerial leader roles, the people who get stuff done, who supervise the tasks that get things done, right? So if you're asking about that, whoever it is that submitted this question, what are the, important traits of a manager? And that's what you mean, I'm okay with it. But if you mean, what are the traits of an effective transformational leader who thinks strategically, who might be a business owner, that's a different set of skills, right? So maybe what we ought to do, let's focus on the way the question was literally written and focus on manager.
Yeah. And
that's my preamble to the whole thing, but.
Why? But I think some of these tips, they're really, Larry, to be honest, I think it's more if you're going to be an empowering manager, how do you be an empowering manager? Because the definition of manager is like, hey, we manage the system to stay the way it is and to produce certain results.
Well, and sometimes leaders, right. And sometimes leaders have to play managerial roles as well. I get it. I'm just saying words have meaning, and if you want your manager, here's what are some of the complaints that we get from team members? Why aren't my team members, employees, or managers more like me? What they're really saying, why don't they take responsibility? Why don't they step into the leadership gap? Why don't they make decisions? Those are those are leadership traits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that's all I'm saying on this. And maybe I got an edge to me today. Maybe I'm looking to jump on somebody.
I know.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, let's explore this, and I think as we talk about some of these traits, maybe they are all much better suited for a leadership type of position, because really, if you are a manager, if you have, a lot of times we think of a manager as having somebody under them. You have a position of authority over them, not necessarily. But if you do, then really, if you're going to be a really effective manager, you should be thinking more leadership than managing.
I agree. And frankly, if you want to move up in an organization, or you want to move someone up in your organization, you need to be coaching, training them, mentoring them to be more of a leader than a manager.
Exactly.
Right. So let's dive into this. Shall we use kind of Duhigg's book, this Smarter, Faster, Better, as a platform? That seems like, he I forget what it was called, this thing with Google a long time ago. Well, I speak it and it appears.
Woo-hoo.
If only that would happen in the rest of my life.
You don't work with me enough, Larry. So,
okay. All right.
So folks, you can't see this if you're just listening, obviously, but you can imagine I'm holding up the Smarter, Faster, Better book. It's nice, pretty orange color.
Yes.
And the author is Charles Duhigg, who wrote The Power of Habit. I'm a fan of his, but he goes into a lot of detail, and he's got multiple chapters in here of how to be smarter, faster, better. Wow. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Larry, when we talked about doing this, we talked about having fun. Let's have some
That's
fun.
Right. Yeah.
So Smarter, Faster, Better is an amazing book, but there's a chapter in there that talks about, I think, managing and teams and all that. And he refers to a project that Google did many years ago. Now, this book was written, the copyright is 2014. So for those of you who are listening to it today, Google has changed a lot. Sure but they're still, obviously one of the most valuable companies, or Alphabet is. And so I think we can learn a lot from them, whether or not you agree with any politics. But this was in 2014. It was a very different time when this was written, and Google's research is done probably around in like 2010, 2011, but people don't change. So I think that research is really, really valid.
Yeah.
So in the findings that he has in the book from Project Oxygen. So here are the 8 things that are listed, and we'll talk about them in more detail, Larry, as we go.
Well, let's back up though. Where did these findings come from? Right. So there's a huge study done on the efficacy, efficiency of the organization. How did things flow more efficiently? How did they've measured tenure in the organization, turnover, team member satisfaction, those kind of things to come up with. These are kind of some traits or skill sets that a manager needed to have or possess to be highly effective.
Yeah, they
basically, right?
Yeah, they looked at all of their projects and gathered a bunch of data on what they considered was successful projects, maybe some that weren't successful, and all of that kind of stuff. And so they really spent time, several years, looking at the data itself.
There you go.
All right, so here they are. Number 1 is a good coach. Number 2, empowers.
So it's like a highly effective manager is a good coach.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the characteristics or traits is a good coach. The second one is empowers and does not micromanage.
That's one of the big ones, I think, for so many people. They hate to be micromanaged.
And Larry, given our discussion earlier, that is a leadership trait, not really a management trait. But, so empowers and does not micromanage. Number 3 is expresses interest and concern in subordinates' success and well-being. Number 4 is results oriented. Number 5 is listens and shares information. Number 6 is helps with career development. Number 7 is has a clear vision and strategy. And then number 8 is has key technical skills.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, whoever wrote this question. You said what? Number 8? That's not 5. This is my point.
I know.
That's 8. All right, so let's just chop 3 of those off of there. No, maybe what we got to do, Dave, is go through those blow by blow and talk about maybe dissect like what is a good coach, for instance.
Yeah. And I agree. Let's go through each one. So I think, Larry, you're really good at defining the differences between the coach, mentor, teacher, counselor, all that kind of stuff. Because when we say the word coach, a lot of times we are thinking, all right, a basketball coach, a football coach, but it's interesting in baseball, they call them, the manager.
Right.
So what do you think is the difference between some of those characteristics?
Well, as you said, there's overlap among some of these things, but typically a coach is someone who works with you to bring out the best in you in a certain skill set or area. They ask a lot of questions. They help you find the solution. They look, making sure that your elbow is in the right position on the swing. They really analyze you. And the impact of their efforts is to help you become more better, is what I was about to say. It's future oriented, right?
Yes.
You're looking towards the future. If you fix this, you'll be better in the future. Mentors, on the other hand, share their experiences with you. And we're not just looking about how do I throw a better free throw, but how do you become a better person, a better executive, a better leader? They take all of their experiences, all of their resources, and they make those available to you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So sometimes mentors do act as coaches, though.
Yes.
Okay. Now, on teachers, when we hear someone use the word teacher, we've all had teachers if you've gone to any kind of school, right? Teachers share information and knowledge from their own training that they've learned. Okay. So they may just be talking about a specific topic. They may not be getting in the batter's cage with you, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But they may be talking you through the process. Counselor is very interesting. I've been reading this 2 different books and watching documentaries. I tend to be a little obsessed on the Romanovs, the last Tsars of Russia, and also I'm kind of a fan of the early Stoics, and so I'm reading a lot about the Roman Empire, right? And so counselors played important roles back then, right? In this setting, though, counselors are more like they're reactive to things that have happened in the past. So you think about, okay, I've got to go see my school counselor, my academic counselor. Oftentimes they're going to look at, how you been doing, Dave? I know you just failed that chemistry test for the 4th time.
Right.
Time to actually start studying, my friend.
Yeah.
So I think those are general descriptions that might accurately reflect the differences. Did we get all of them?
I think so.
Yeah.
I know that there's a therapist in there, and
sure,
where they're trying to also look back at the past, some of maybe the trauma that you've had, to help you understand what happened in your past, so that you can understand yourself for today.
Sure. Yeah.
But sometimes I think when they talk about a good coach, sometimes there's, like you said, it's all interwoven, and you may have to kind of swap between some of those roles if you're going to be an effective coach for somebody. Because the whole idea, I think, Larry, is to help get the best performance out of you. Yeah. And there's times when you've got to do what you can in those areas. For example, Larry, I think in all of our different mastermind programs and our virtual spotlight sessions, there are so many nuggets of wisdom that we share, but in particular you share from all of the experiences in the past that is really more in the depths of a counselor or a therapist, only because of experience and understanding. But a lot of times
failures.
Yeah. And a lot of times that's because that is what's needed for the person to get them to the next level of performance, or to help them get unstuck.
Yeah, well, I think particularly in the mentor counselor categories, you need someone who's willing to be honest, transparent, and vulnerable with you.
Yeah.
If somebody's teaching me something, I don't necessarily need them, or a coach, telling me to keep my elbow up or tucked in, whatever the sport is that I'm doing. I don't need to know about the emotional journey that got them there to make sure that the elbow stays up.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't. But when it comes down to human interaction, when it comes down to just living life, trying to live a life of significance, moving closer to my fullest potential, I want to have someone that I can relate to, because this journey that we're on is going to suck our lifeblood sometimes, right? And oftentimes we as leaders and managers feel like we're the only ones. Why am I the only one struggling with this? When the truth is, if you've got a good mentor or counselor, and again, sometimes those are people that are just one step above you on the ladder of life. If they would share with you, you know what, as you're about to go into this season, like you're taking over this new project, you're launching this new business, you're hiring this new person, beware of the pitfalls, because this could be what happened. It happens oftentimes. You're just better prepared for the emotional damage or slings and arrows that are going to come at you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're more prepared, but you're not going to get that usually from a teacher or a coach. It's more from a mentor.
Exactly.
From a counselor.
Exactly.
Right. And you got to keep in mind, as you're playing these roles in your organization, you're teaching these people in your organization how to do the same thing. People are parrots. Team members are parrots, where they say, you know, stuff rolls downhill, right? Lead by example. You've heard all of these types of things, right? So the better you are at it, the more intentional you are at this, the better your team members will become at this.
Yes.
Right? So maybe we ought to move into this next one, Dave, which is kind of a hot button issue for me. And this is like that really effective managers are those folks who empower their team members and don't micromanage them. Because oftentimes I think managers end up micromanaging when they've made a bad hire. If you have to micromanage someone, that's probably because of a mistake you or someone else in the organization has made.
That's a great point.
Or you've not either trained them enough, or you've not pulled the trigger on coaching them up or coaching them out of the organization. All right. This is oftentimes not a reflection of them, but a reflection of you. That takes courage to look in the mirror and say, oh, where have I gone wrong that I need to keep micromanaging this person? If you do your skills-based assessments that we talk about in a lot of these, not just skills-based assessment, but you do assessments, whether it's cognitive or cognitive assessments before you bring someone into your organization, and you make sure that the cognitive stuff is there, they've got the skills to do it. There ought to be a short period of training or a long period of training, depending on what it is, and then let them go, set them free to do it. You give them parameters, you give them boundaries within which to play, and you say, hey, here are the results I expect from you, or better. Let them do it. And then you just check in along the way. Checking in along the way on progress is a lot different than micromanaging. Micromanaging is constantly looking over their shoulder. Do you think you ought to be doing it this way? Do you think you ought to be doing that? I think you ought to do it this way. Because you're setting people up for failure. And I would ask this question: have you ever been micromanaged? Most people have. And how did that make you feel? Right? Dave, have you been micromanaged before?
Oh yeah. And if you
how do you feel?
You feel, how would I say it? You feel like almost, why bother?
Exactly.
Why should I use my brain to think through any new solutions, come up with any new products or innovative ideas when they're either all going to get shot down, or I'm going to be told exactly what to do and I can't express my creativity?
Yeah, exactly. So it stifles your creativity. You feel less than valuable. Oftentimes you feel worthless, right? You feel minimized and marginalized. And you don't feel like you're a valuable contributor to the team. None of those things are good things, right? But to empower someone means you're going to let them bring their best that they got to the team. And by the way, and this is the big thing, Dave, you got to be willing to accept that they're going to fail from time to time, that they're going to make mistakes. Listen, my friends, mistakes and failures are part of business. Without mistakes and failures, there would not be innovation. There would not be positive change in your organization. The key here is, how do we respond as managers and leaders to these mistakes? Do we use it as an opportunity to do an AAR, an after action review? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And how can we improve the next time? Or we just accept the mistakes and beat the snot out of somebody and scold them and dock their pay, or whatever it is that some of these organizations do when they make mistakes? All wrong, by the way. You have to use these mistakes as an opportunity to learn and encourage it. Encourage healthy mistakes. Now, if it's a life safety issue, that's a different story.
Right.
Right?
If it puts something of our clients at risk, then
Yes.
yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we had
No.
we had something I was working with Daphne on, and I had an
Uh-huh.
idea of, hey, this may help you to be a little bit more productive.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about it. And I said, what do you think? And then I was just waiting on her to be able to respond to me to say,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious. Tell me more. So we talked about it, and then we implemented some of it together. Always implement some of these ideas together with your
Yes.
team.
Good. Good.
And
Good.
then at some point, she's like, I got it. I'm going to take it over and finish it up. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Saved me time.
Yep.
Felt empowered.
Yep.
And now she's responsible for the solution going forward.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it was so it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is really hard. And a lot of times, Larry, when you first bring somebody on, you have a trust issue with them and you're going to micromanage. It's hard at the beginning. You've got to figure out that balance of where do you micromanage at the beginning and where you don't. And I would say, like what you said, tell them, here are the results that I want or better, and give them the boundaries.
Yeah, I like that. And by the way, you can even joke around in the beginning. Say, it might feel micromanaging for the first week. It won't always be like this. I just want to make sure that I'm setting you up for success. So now's the time to ask any questions. Offer me, like, here's the thing. I remember a team member that I hired years ago, and it was the second hotel I think that we'd taken over. And so I was showing him how we were doing things, and he was like taking it all in. And he said, well, I like the way we're doing this, but have you considered doing it another way? And he offered the way. So he was already, and it was a better way. He was already bringing value in from the beginning, right? I was trying to give him all this information, and that's the way I think it ought to be. You want to encourage your new team member to share ideas on how they can bring efficiency or productivity or whatever you're looking for with this new person into the organization. Capitalize on that fresh blood. If you don't let them bring in these fresh ideas in the beginning, you're basically sending a subliminal message to them that we don't want to hear about your ideas, because you really have two opportunities. Usually you can hire from within or hire some new blood from outside the organization. If you're promoting from within, there's already a bunch of institutional DNA that's wrapped around this. But if you're hiring someone from the outside, take advantage of the skill set and the experiences that they have from another organization to help you become a better organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think we should jump into number 3.
Okay.
So number 3 is expresses interest and concern in subordinates' success and well-being.
That's so important. I think this ties into one of the later ones as well about career development, but expressing interest in their well-being. On my to-do list that I usually carry around with me, one of the questions on here, now this is people from my direct reports. There are 6 questions on here, and I ask a couple of these. So the first one, I'll just go through with them. Number 1, what decisions do you need from me? Number 2, what problems are keeping you from your priorities? Number 3, what plans are you making, which we haven't discussed? Number 4, what progress have you made since we last met? And the next 2, those ones I would say are professional, right? The next 2 is, on a scale of 1 to 100, how are you doing personally and why? And then the last one is, in what areas can I keep you in my thoughts and prayers? Well, gosh, my father's got terminal cancer, and, I'm really distracted right now. That sure would answer a lot of the questions that you're having about why is the TPS report not getting submitted on time, right?
Yes.
If you know what's going on in people's lives, then you can manage your own expectations of them. But also there's a sense of belonging. You got to remember that a lot of our team members, I'm not a big fan of saying, hey, this is my family. We're like a family here. It's great if you can get that familial feeling there. But the truth is, many of these people are going to spend more time with you if you're working inside some brick walls than they're going to spend with their family members. It sure would be nice to know who is it that you're working with, what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a little bit more in depth about this, I think, in the previous episode, which was 120, and that was, how do I encourage my team members towards personal growth and development? So we
Mm.
touched on it, but I think that you bring out an important point about the concern and care for them personally, right? So the success and well-being, when we read this, it says number 3 is expresses interest and concern in subordinate success and well-being. Well, we all know success and well-being is not just business success. It's all the other areas that people have in their lives.
Yeah.
I had one of our VAs on our team, Larry. Her uncle just passed from lung cancer.
Yeah.
She just started with us not too long ago. So was thinking about, okay, what can I do? It's kind of hard when they're in the Philippines. You can't like send flowers and stuff, but contributed some money towards their funeral expenses and gave a couple of extra days off. So I think there are a lot of things that we can do as owners and managers that indicate we are concerned about their success and well-being, but it's so important to ask questions and to be concerned in that way, but it's also important to show action.
Yeah.
Take action, especially when there's, a death or something like that. They're going through something pretty tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, people want to work with compassionate people.
Yes.
It's just the way it is. And it's, my friends, we are moving into, and I've been saying this for a while, what I'm calling a relationship economy. Okay. Your workers are no longer robots sitting behind milling machines in the industrial age. Those days are gone. Okay. And they do have choices where they spend their time, where they invest their time, where they earn their money.
Right.
Okay? Yeah.
That's right.
Good. What's the next one? I forget what the next one was.
The 4th one is results oriented.
Oh, this is a good one.
We kind of said this in a way.
Well, I mean, if you're in business, damn it, you better be results oriented. This is not, even if you are in a non-for-profit organization, you got to be results oriented. One of my big things is what's measured is improved.
Yes.
Right? And so I think we need to be looking at that, and we have to set expectations among all of our team members of what we expect from them on a day-to-day basis. In our morning stand-up call, we do 2 major things. One is we start with when it's someone's turn, it's here's what I'm grateful for, and they list what they're grateful for, and then say, here's what I'm doing today. Here are the results I will be accomplishing today. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you got to build a culture of being results oriented. And we kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier about here's what I expect or better.
Yeah.
Right. Why do we do that? Because if you tell people here's what I expect, that will be the ceiling of what they perform to for most people. Not all, but most people. But if you say this or better, that helps the entire organization.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I think it's important that, you have your KPIs for your team to track.
Key performance indicators.
Key performance indicators. And also, folks, just a quick tip, we should discuss this at some point, but some of these KPIs are going to be lag measures and some of them are going to be lead measures. Make sure you have both in your organization.
That's right. Yeah. Lagging indicators are those that look in the past. Leading indicators predict the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Number 5 is listens and shares information. And I know we had a podcast. I can't remember the exact episode, but I know we had one where we talked about how vulnerable do we need to be as leaders. So that kind of relates to it, but not exactly. I think this is a lot more towards the information you share as, from a company basis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here it is. We talked. It was episode 48. I got to read my own notes.
Okay. All right.
That's when we talked about it. So listens and shares information. And I think one of the things that's important for us to say, well, what does listening really, really mean? And I know I've heard several times people talk about the drive-by listening, where you're going through a fast food drive-through. And drive-by listening or drive-through listening is when you're repeating your order. I want a hamburger, fries, and a shake. They repeat back to you, okay, you want a hamburger, fries, and shake. No, that's not the kind of repeating that you want to do to show that you listened. You want to be able to tell them back kind of the gist of what they had said.
Yeah. So you want to get the gist, but also I think, what does this mean? You can help them articulate. So what this means for the organization or your efforts is this. So you get really super clear on it. You can do this during your four corners walk.
Oh yeah.
If you have a physical facility, I'm a big believer of what they call walking the four corners, and that's like walking through the entire organization and just the management by leading around. In the restaurant business, we call it touching tables, where the manager ought to be coming out. If you're at a good restaurant, you'll notice that a manager will come and they will literally touch the table subtly because they want to be that close to you. How are things going? Is there anything we can do to help improve your experience with us? They're listening to you, right? Well, we need to do the same thing with our team members, right? I think a common mistake, Dave, that people make, that managers make when they're doing what some people call performance appraisals, is they sit down and they just talk at the, I'm going to use this word intentionally, employee for a second, instead of making it, which ought to be about 15% of that performance appraisal meeting. The other 85% ought to be talking about the future. How can we help you develop? What are our goals for the future? Could you co-create these things? And people will feel much more listened to, much more appreciated, and much more valued in the organization. But ask open-ended questions, I think, is a really important element of being an effective manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was interesting, Larry, at the conference that we went to, the VWise conference, and we went to this restaurant, Slanging Chicken.
Yeah.
Remember when we were ordering and we were trying to figure it out? What happened? The owner was in the back. He came out because he was listening.
Yeah.
He was listening, and he heard that we were a little bit confused, or we were new customers. And he came over and he said, here's the pictures. Here's the pictures of what's on the menu. That might help, because they weren't above on the screens as well.
Yeah.
And that helped. So he was listening to what the problem was, and he came up with a pretty quick solution.
Yeah. They've only been open for a couple of months, and they're so good.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, I wish he would have told his team member who was standing there, hey, why don't you help them bring the screen up?
Well, we don't know that he didn't do that afterwards, right? But yeah, that's right. Yeah. The other element of this, Dave, is not just listening, but it's sharing information, right? It's one of the complaints that we hear oftentimes in organizations when we're doing our consulting and you're going to start talking to the team members. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know the health of the organization. I didn't know that we got a group coming in. I didn't know that we had this order. I didn't know that I had this client who was pissed off about the quality of our product. Managers and leaders need to share information, right? They need to be an aggregator of information and a disseminator of information. Okay, so that's really important. And back to the listening, though, listening is only effective if you are then applying what you've heard or correcting what you've learned. Right? I think I shared this within a podcast with you recently, or someone recently. We acquired a hotel several years ago, and we're going through all the online reviews, and everyone's like, over and over again, dusty mirrors, dusty ceiling fans, dusty armoires. And so we get there, and I think the tallest room attendant was 5'2", and they were all very short little people. And so after we took over, we said, hey, what's going on? Why is this? If you don't know, in the hotel industry, we have what we call dust wands. They're long wands so you can dust on top of things. And the room attendant said, we've been asking for dust wands forever, and we just don't get them. And so we can't get up, because they're not allowed to get on ladders in the rooms, right? And so what was the first thing we did? We got them dust wands, and all of a sudden they feel good. The quality of the product jumps. They feel better about their jobs. They feel better about themselves. They feel better, like they're better team members. So you have to act on what it is that you're learning while you're on your listening tour.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Well, number 6 is helps with career development.
Oh, so important.
I think when it comes to career development, I think it's going to start with asking, where do you see yourself in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
Yeah, I think that's an important element, but I think also just helping them be better at the job that they're currently in, right? I share this stat all the time. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but I'll just tell you, it comes to bear every year when Gallup does their State of the American Workforce survey. Most people leave their organization because they feel like they're not being professionally developed.
Right.
Most team members expect that their current employer is going to help them become better at their job and set them up for the next promotion. If you're not doing that, that will contribute to one of the reasons why people are leaving your organization.
Yeah.
People want to feel like they're on a winning team. Winning teams are constantly practicing, getting better at what they do, anticipating what the next challenge is going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things you can do as a leader, as a manager, is make sure you understand or have developed some type of a educational reimbursement type of a program.
There you go. I like that idea.
You can do it from all the way from helping them reimburse a portion or all of them going back to school at a formal college, or you could say, hey, I'm going to pay for you to take 3 Udemy classes this quarter or something like that.
Yeah.
So give them the freedom to select, but make sure you understand how you're going to be able to reimburse them and what the options are, because a lot of folks won't because of money. If you're going to pay for it, that will help. That will help them. And the kind of folks that you hire, remember, Larry, we talk about motivation, integrity, and capacity. If you have somebody who's a high level of motivation, they should be wanting to continually improve themselves.
Sure.
So they're gonna jump at the chance of taking something like that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly within their career, but hopefully it will be.
Yeah, doesn't have to be though. You're right. I think that, as I remember correctly, we got into, because I remember looking at the book when you mentioned this, is that these managers, leaders we're talking about, had to have a clear vision and strategy for where they're taking either the department or the company. We talk about this heavily in this victory book. The V is for vision, right? And so it's so important that not only are they developing a vision, let's say that you're a departmental manager, the vision for that department needs to support the overall vision of the organization. All right. But let's say that's a manager for the entire organization. That vision is only as good as the people who know it and work towards it. So what does that mean? You need to be communicating this. You need to be an evangelist.
Yeah.
the vision and the mission, right? And then making sure that you are a strategic thinker, which means like getting up out of the weeds, trying to get maybe not a 30,000 foot perspective. It depends on where you are in the organization, but at least get a 5,000 foot perspective, what's going on in the battlefield, so I can start moving my pieces around the chessboard here a little bit, right? But I do see a whole lot of managers who get so stuck in the weeds, Dave. They're so stuck on the tactical part of the job that they don't even know what the ultimate vision is for their department or for their business or for their organization.
We're going to talk about that in the next episode a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right, good. But believe me, your team members are watching.
Yes.
They know whether you've got this or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the clarity of your vision it's critical, but then helping them to be clear on it as well. You may be clear on it in your mind as a leader or as a manager, but you've got to help them be clear on it. And one of the best ways to do that is to give them examples, success stories about how you are accomplishing your vision along the way. Because there should be some nuggets. There should be some customers or client success stories. There could be team member stories. You should have some successes, not, every day, but when you have your regular meetings, bring those things up to reinforce that you are accomplishing what you're setting out to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that the chapters, well, frankly, this whole book, Victory, is really good for anyone who's interested in how do I actually define a vision for my personal life and for my professional life, So shameless plug, get the Victory book. It's a #1 Amazon bestseller. It's an awesome book.
It's an amazing book.
And Larry Broughton happens to be the author, in case you weren't aware.
Who is that? I don't know if I know that guy.
Yeah. Okay. That was 7, I think.
That's number 8. Let's wrap it up.
What's number 8?
8 is, and this is an interesting one. It says has key technical skills. That's what they say. And I think that's very interesting because, and I don't recall exactly what they talked about when they say key technical skills, but I can kind of imagine a little bit what they're talking about. And I think they are probably talking about that you've got some technical, I don't know, chutzpah around the area just a little bit so that you can help them solve some problems. Doesn't mean you have to have it in every area, but if you actually are managing a particular area or leading a particular area in the company, you've got to have some intimate knowledge about what's going on there.
I remember one of the first restaurants I ever had a equity interest in. I'd always worked back at the house, with the exception of the McDonald's. I'd worked all over the place and was a manager there. But I mean, like the first full service restaurant I was at, I could jump on the line and those types of things. But I'd never opened a bottle of wine publicly
Wow.
before. And we were slammed, right? And so here I am trying to open a bottle of wine tableside. And it was very humorous. I just had to make a joke about it, right? And so guess what the first thing was after... I tear the foil off the neck of the bottle and it's just an absolute mess. I went to one of the team members and said, okay, show me how to do this so this never happens again. It takes courage to go to a quote unquote subordinate and say, I don't know how to do this. Train me up on it.
Yes.
They love doing that.
Yes.
Like they're
excited about it.
Yes, exactly. But you got to make if you can make a little bit of a joke about it, be a little bit self-deprecating, because they know these people who are doing the day-to-day job, they can watch you and they know whether you know how to do it or not. So if you're faking it and pretending you know how to do it, that's just going to cause negative banter behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right. Just admit when you don't know something and get the skills to actually perform effectively. You don't need to do everyone's job that you do as proficiently as they do, but you need to know the major ins and outs of their roles to see how it all fits together. This is one of the things I love, like in the hotel industry. I love working with night auditors and promoting them through the system, because these night auditors, they may not have worked front of the house, they may not have done these things, but they see how all the pieces fit together.
Yes.
So if they understand how the pieces fit together, I can teach them, or we can train them on the other elements of the operation, right? So there are some key technical skills you must know, but you don't need to know the minutia of most of the jobs. This is why some of these, if you're a strong manager, just those managerial skills are transferable to different industries if you know how to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a quick hack way, and this is what I discovered to get those key technical skills that you need. A quick hack way to do it is because I was managing a group of engineers in a semiconductor company doing verification of silicon chips, and some of the stuff that my guys were doing, we had all guys in the group. Some of the things that they were doing, I just was like, wow, I just didn't even I didn't have an appreciation. So what I did, Larry, is I said, okay, the next chip that comes in that's not a super high priority, it's kind of lower on the priority list, I'm going to lead that particular verification effort. So I was working in the business and not on it enough on a lower priority project so that I could get an appreciation of the tool set, what they struggled with. And I remember asking a friend of mine now, teach me this stuff. He was more than happy. We had a good time.
Yeah,
he's a great teacher, and that's what I discovered. Wow, he's a great teacher.
Yeah.
And so so that really, really helped me understand what was going on, what their difficulties were, and where in our tool set, our chain, et cetera, that we should be looking at and protecting, as well as making it better. Yeah. It helped me do my job as a manager much better with that understanding.
Yeah. And you build bonds with your team members too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what they mean by the key technical skills, knowing enough to where your team members come to you and say that there's issues or problems, you can ask some good questions to help them.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good way to put it. Good. So that was 8. I'm sorry that wasn't 5. So you can throw out any 3 that you don't want.
No.
Or just accept them as bonuses, free gifts.
Yeah, free gifts. Yeah, there you go. All right. Anything else, sir?
No, I don't think so. Let's wrap this thing up. Let's take it home.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. And remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom. And we're to help you with our course and community, of course, our podcast, as well as our white glove service, where we find a rock star VA for you. So 3 things we'd love for you to do right now, and we'd really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. either on your iPhone or your Android phone.
Mhm.
And then, of course, on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button and click on the little bell next to it to get reminders. Number 2, give us a rating, preferably 5-star, or leave a comment below this video, a question, anything, because it will help us to get the word out. YouTube will rank our videos a little bit higher because we want to help more people. And the more people that see it, the more people we're helping. So number 3 is go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community and our white glove service. Remember, even without experience, you learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. Larry and I have helped a lot of folks. We'd love to help you too. So just go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
I'm just going to remind you, folks, go out and do something significant today, my friends. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. All right, go get them. We'll see you the next time.
Bye.
Peace out.